Hi, my name is Dawn Evans, and I'm going to talk about underage drinking. Who in the room, as a teenager, tried alcohol? Most of us have when we were younger. We thought it was fun, a rite of passage, daring, the thing to do. When we were younger, it was illegal then, just as it is now. But the consequences today are much worse than they were when we were teenagers. And the consequences not only affect the teenager, but it affects also the adult or the parent who was providing the alcohol, who purchased the alcohol, and who allowed the consumption of the alcohol on their property. This is why it's so important for us as parents to know and realize the facts on underage drinking. Our brains continue to develop until we're in our 20s. Consuming alcohol has a long-lasting effect on intellectual capabilities, and it can increase alcohol addiction when you start drinking while your brain is still developing. Every year that your teen does not start drinking, their chance of alcohol addiction decreases by 14%. Great number. Per www.don'tserveteens.gov, more than 7% of 8th graders, 16% of sophomores, and 23% of seniors report binge drinking. Binge drinking would be 5 or more drinks in a night. That's a lot of alcohol to consume in a night as a teenager. Can you imagine how that is affecting their brain development? As a parent myself of 4 teenagers, knowing how challenging the schoolwork can be, teenagers today need every brain cell they can have. Per the Center for Disease Control, car crashes are the leading cause of death in teenagers. The U.S. Surgeon General says that 5,000 kids under 21 die each year as a result of car crashes, homicides, and suicides. 1,900 people under 21 die every year in car accidents that are related to underage drinking. Teenagers between 16 and 20 who do not have a lot of driving experience, and we never do during that age, teenagers don't know how their body is going to respond, how slow their responses are when they're behind the wheel of a car. They are 2 times as likely to be involved in a fatal crash as those that are over the legal age to drink. Car crashes, deaths of our teenagers for underage drinking is preventable. As adults, we know that alcohol is a depressant. Teenagers have been told this in health class as well. But what teenagers may not realize is that if they are depressed or stressed, the alcohol is going to intensify those feelings. It's not going to make those feelings go away, not going to make those feelings any better. It's going to make it worse. And when a teenager is depressed or stressed, they add alcohol to the mix, it can cause that teenager to want to commit suicide. www.don'tserveteens.gov states high school students who drink are 2 times as likely to have seriously considered attempting suicide as compared to non-drinkers. High school students who binge drink are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide compared to non-drinkers. Suicide is the 3rd leading cause of death in our teenagers. So if we can help curtail teenage drinking, we can help save our lives in multiple ways. It will help lower deaths in alcohol-related incidences and in teenage suicide. We know alcohol impairs our senses. With this being said, teenagers who are drinking are more likely to also engage in sexual activity than those teenagers who are not drinking. With not having all their wits about them, teenagers may be having sex with one or more partners. They may or may not know who those partners are. They also may not be using any type of birth control. Are you ready to be a grandparent? Is your teen ready to be a parent? Is your teen mentally and or emotionally ready to parent? Alcohol can have some very serious life-threatening effects. I know what you're thinking. I would rather my teenager drink at home. I can control what goes on. They will be safer at my house. None of this is going to happen to me, etc. Well, I'm here to tell you the law doesn't see it that way. So let's talk about some consequences to your teenager. At www.delaware.gov, they list out the consequences based on categories. First category, underage impaired driving. Loss of a license for 2 months or a $200 fine. Underage consumption or possession is loss of license for 1 month or a $100 fine. Using a false or fake ID, up to a $500 fine or 30 days in jail if the fine is not paid. If they go to a bar or a package store, a $50 fine. Now, if they're a first offender and they're under the age of 18 and their blood alcohol content level is 0.08 or higher, your teenager will lose their license until they are 21. If your teenager is between 18 and 21, their blood alcohol content level is 0.08 or higher, they will lose their license for up to a year. Now, some pretty steep penalties for the teenager. Now let's see how this is going to affect you. Your teenager is under 18, left a party, pulled over, had a breathalyzer test done, and their blood alcohol content level is over 0.08. Their license is gone now until they're 21. You are now their only source of transportation. Just when you started to enjoy not having to run to the grocery store, you can tell your teenager, hey, I need a gallon of milk, here's the keys, can you go and get it? Not available anymore. It's now your responsibility to do again. Your teenager needs a ride to work. You have to get them there. So now you have to rearrange your schedule to make sure your teenager can get where they need to be because they were drinking and driving. Very inconvenient. That scenario, kind of the easy part. Another scenario, let's say you allowed your teenager to have a party at your house. You supplied the alcohol, or you knew that there was going to be alcohol at the party. Someone left that had been drinking at your home. That person was in a car accident. They either died or they killed themselves. They killed someone else. You are responsible. You provided alcohol to minors. And the law in Delaware states there will be a $500 fine and 40 hours of community service to the person who supplied alcohol to minors. That doesn't sound too bad. However, the parent of the teenager that was involved, that was driving, that left your house, can take you to civil court and take everything that you have just for supplying alcohol to minors. Was it worth it to be the cool parent to say, yeah, it's okay, have your friends over, I'd rather you drink here? No, not worth it at all. It's not worth anyone's life. Now you know the facts and consequences of underage drinking. Make sure you protect yourself and your teen. Teen drinking affects all of our lives in multiple ways. It's not worth it to allow your teenager to drink. Thank you.